Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I want to talk about the difference between taking things seriously and then just having fun, being casual about things, because I think comics get stuck in this weird middle ground where kind of no matter where you talk about comics, if you're saying, hey, let's get serious, let's figure out how to make money, people will come at you saying, no, 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 we need to be casual. Like, this is a hobby, come relax, bro, why are you so upset? Like, just chill, it's no big deal. And then if you're too casual about it, people will come at you and say, "No, this is a business. We're trying to make money. What's wrong with you? You need to be serious." And it feels like no matter where you pick in this general zone, people crap on you, and they want to kind of tell you which way to go. But the reality is you have to find a balance between both. And this is true of like almost all of the arts. If you look at the people who are very successful in movies, in music, and other forms of entertainment, there are people who can strike a good balance between being casual, enjoying the fun, enjoying kind of the magic and the creative spirit of this, of everything that's being made, and people that can still, when they need to, flip it on and be serious about the business. And this is where comics have really struggled because, in general, people tend to highly index in one direction or another. If you ever want to lose your mind, go out and have drinks with a bunch of comic writers at a con, and you'll find that they're like very loose and casual about the business. And it's not like everybody needs to unwind, everybody needs to relax. You need to know those moments when you just want to go out and have drinks and talk about whatever it is you're going to talk about. But some people can never escape there. At some point, you need to talk or at least plot and plan about kind of everywhere things can go. And if you look at other businesses, if you look at technology, if you look at biotech, you look at pharma, if you look at some of these different areas, what is very common amongst executives is they will go out and they'll go to play golf, they'll go to strip joints, they'll go to fly on private planes, they'll do all of those various things. I've experienced all of those things. And what you notice is that they will talk about crazy, wild ass ideas, of which if 10% of it comes true, they're all going to make they're going to make eight figures. They're all going to make tens of millions of dollars. And so, while it's fun to kind of dream and invent at, full kind of crazy creative output of where everything can go, somewhere in the back of your mind, you know that you've got to at least hit 10% of these crazy ideas. And if you do that, you're going to be rich and happy. And hopefully you get 20%, so you get even more rich. But nobody's kidding themselves that they're going to get to 100%. And this is where a lot of people in comics fail, is because in the rare moments where they get to, invention and crazy ideas, like I'm going to do this with Superman and that will lead to this and that and this other thing, they go really kind of, far with their ideas and their concepts. But then when all is said and done, they have no ability to execute on those ideas. So they don't really believe them. They talk about, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did this? And some of those ideas are great. You can have dinner and you can have drinks with a lot of people in comics, and they'll talk about really amazing things that will, go really, really far. But when you get right down to it, none of them have any ability to execute on those things. None of them really know what to do with those things. And so they do nothing. And so these great ideas just kind of die because it's okay to have a concept, but you have to have the execution steps. You have to have the path to get to that concept in order to make it happen. So let's say it's old Perch and he's sitting down with, for dinner and drinks, or maybe just drinks with a bunch of editors at Marvel. And they'll talk about, hey, what if we told this story and what if we did this thing? And by the way, some of being fully open to the creative business process is by exploring ideas that sound crazy. And I remember one of them that came out was this, like, what if we did an event and we put our ideas, because, you're with Marvel, of course you're going to think about an event, but they go, what if we actually, got a really big name artist? What if we paid, Mark Silvestri to come in, or Todd McFarlane? There was one drinks I was at with some people that I think were reasonably powerful in the grand scheme of things. And they were talking about, they're like, we have the money to get Todd McFarlane to come in and do a Spider-Man event where it was like the death of Mary Jane. And they weren't really going to kill her, but they were going to make it like really, really key to like, and it was an interesting idea. The basic idea, I'm saying way more than I should, but they didn't do it. So I think I can reveal these things. They basically were going to put Mary Jane in mortal jeopardy. And this is when this is post Spider-Man One More Day. And so during this moment where Mary Jane was severely, severely like in danger, Spider-Man was going to basically his mind was going to snap. And suddenly, in the moment, like he's trying to save her life because, he loves Mary Jane and she's a friend and everything. But in this moment of high pressure, his mind was going to snap. And he was suddenly going to, all these memories would flood in. The memories of being married to her and everything else. And it'd be in this critical moment where he's fighting a villain. I won't say who the villain is, so I'll keep some level of, but like a known Spider-Man villain. And in this moment, he would be paralyzed because suddenly, in this moment, all of the memories of the marriage and the family he was going to have and everything else suddenly came at him and hit him all at once. And so he would like have this moment where he would be frozen. And in that moment, he was going to like be crippled. The villain would like use that moment to like smack him down, and he would be in mortal jeopardy as well. And so Spider-Man had to basically fight through. I mean, at this point, he's worried he's about to die. Not worried, but he feels like he's about to die, paralysis, everything else. But he now knows that Mary Jane was once his wife, and this was taken from him. And if she's going to die, if he's going to die, he wants to basically hold her as they die. It's kind of and it's like this huge moment they were going to pull up. They had the money, and they even had some inroads to get Todd McFarlane to draw this. And they were going to put all this together. They got a big name writer. And it was like this big moment was about to occur. And here's the part that you're going to hate listening to this. But for the moment, take off your fan hat and put on your business hat, okay? And basically, we're going to have this almost cliffhanger of all this kind of thing. And they said, what if for the last issue of this storyline, the issue that's going to pull it all together, we're going to reveal, now Spider-Man's not going to die, Mary Jane's probably not going to die, and they weren't going to. They were going to basically pull it out, find a way to kind of survive, and the basic way this storyline was going to end was that Spider-Man would kind of crawl over to kind of save and protect Mary Jane, and in that moment, he would be able to dig deep and find a clever way to defeat the villain in a way that made sense, but wasn't heroics as much as him being smart and him being able to kind of through his love, through his passion, he desperately needed to survive, and he would survive, and that was what was going to happen. And then after that, or the kind of conclusion would this be that Spider-Man remembered his past. He knew this. Mary Jane did not. So he knew, but she did not. And Spider-Man was going to basically devote himself to regaining his marriage and his life. And he needed to get Mary Jane recovered. And then he needed to prove to her his worth. And he needed to somehow get over his guilt of giving away the marriage and like all the rest. But basically, he would know, she would not, and it would set into the next arc of the storyline of how they put all this together. And Todd McFarlane, to be clear, had not agreed to this, but there was enough in play that they thought they could make it work. But here's where the interesting bit comes up. The business person, businessman, businesswoman, whatever it is, part comes in. They said, this conversation's going on, and like, this is a really great storyline. We can make it happen. We don't think Joe and CB will go for this, but we think that it sells so many comics. So they go, okay, so we know we can sell a lot of comics. So what if, and this is a kind of brainstorming that tech people, pharma people do from time to time, that is often described in books as anti-consumer. And what they mean by that is they're making plans that would piss off a huge number of people, but basically force them to do something they don't want to do that would drive the business forward. That's the basic idea between being anti-consumer tactics. So so they said, what if the final issue of the storyline we released on digital 3 months before the comics? What if we teed up the storyline and then it just ended kind of like The Sopranos? This storyline where the penultimate issue, Spider-Man's like, he remembers this thing is snapped in his mind. Mary Jane is bleeding out. Spider-Man's about to die. He crawls over, he put his arm on her and goes, I remember. And then the next panel is black. And then you just don't print Spider-Man comics for 3 months at all. But if you subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, the issue is there. You get the conclusion of this storyline. It's there on digital. You find out what happens, and then they put some other stuff behind it. But that's how we're going to do it. And you got to subscribe to find out. And basically, you have to subscribe for a year. And in that year, we find ways to keep the consumers, put a lot of value, show the back issues, and everything else. So I remember sitting at drinks, and this idea was being discussed. And I remember people going, oh, fuck, people would hate that. And there's this little debate about, well, people would hate it, but put that aside for the moment. How angry would you make the fans? Right now, if you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, I would be mad. Okay, for the moment, put that aside. Put your cold-hearted business side on, your hat on, and then ask yourself, would you subscribe? Who would subscribe to this? I'll bet lots of people would subscribe. If you built it up, and I'm not talking in a minor way. Remember, they're talking about getting Todd McFarlane, and here's the big kind of magic trick that would go on. You say, hey, we got Todd McFarlane coming back to do a Spider-Man story, a little limited, a little like 6-issue little event. Todd McFarlane, for all the things he's done, Spawn, all this different stuff that Todd McFarlane has done, he is synonymous with Spider-Man. He is one of those people that put his mark on Spider-Man, much like John Byrne put his mark on Fantastic Four. But I don't know, is there any artist attached to any character as much as Todd McFarlane and Spider-Man? Is there anybody who fits that bill? I don't think so. I think more than anyone else, there's an artist who made his career and built the comics on Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man. So basically, you promote Todd McFarlane's coming back on Spider-Man. You don't get into any of this Mary Jane shit. You don't at all tip your hand to the fact that you're about to majorly shift one more day this highly, toxic, highly, big emotion storyline. You don't say any of that. You build it all around Todd coming back. And then, like a couple weeks before the first issue drops that Todd's on, you're like, by the way, we're going to be addressing head on one more day and Peter and Mary Jane's relationship. Imagine, if you will, people would lose their shit over that. They would go, it would be insane. Now you're bringing the artist most known for this character, who also, by the way, drew this character during the marriage and during major parts of this entire thing. And you're going to address this thing. I mean, like, people would, you're now talking about a 300, 400, 500,000 copy sale of this book. That's the magic trick. And then in the midst of that, you go, hey, we're going to end in a cliffhanger and let this all soak in. But if you really want to know the conclusion, if you want to know the spoiler to this whole thing, it's on digital. All you got to do is subscribe. Now, granted, piracy would be insane. Fans would be pissed. They would see it as a money-grabbing scheme, which it is. But picture, your handsome, gallivant Perch sitting there in a chair listening to this. And I'm very proud because these comic editors are thinking in a, consumer unfriendly way, but it's money. This is the most business conversation I've been a part of in years. It's all pre-COVID. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that would piss so many people off, but my God, if you want to ignite the fire under digital, if you want to generate huge buzz, that would do it. That would do it like almost nothing else. So you should go for it. Now, obviously, it's 2022. They didn't go for it. But picture, if you will, that's how comics should operate. People need to go out there and swing for the fences. And sometimes when you're swinging for the fences, you're going for a home run. You're going to come up with ideas that are wrong, that are, the consumers won't like, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad ideas. It means you got to play it out. You need to come up with these wild, crazy ideas. And if you do 10% of them, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to do great. But if you never have the ideas in the first place, you'll never get anywhere. You've got to this is a creative space. It's a space designed for huge ideas, many of which never see the light of day. But if you don't try, you never get anywhere. I still maintain, and you can be the judge of that, the comments will be the judge of this. If they had run this storyline and they had done it exactly like they were kind of pitching, where the conclusion of the storyline went digital instead of print for like 3 months, do you realize? I mean, if the goal, if it's all about identifying what the goal is. If the goal is we want to kickstart digital, that would have done it. Can you imagine? That would have been insane for digital. It would have done crazy money. And in a year subscription, it's basically betting on yourself. It's basically saying in 1 year, we'll come up with other compelling reasons to keep people on this platform. Keep in mind, consumer buying behavior is if you can capture them in a subscription and you can provide even minimal value, they'll stick with it. This is the basis behind MMOs and a lot of streaming services. I mean, how many of you right now listening to this are subscribers to something that you don't even really give a shit about? Do you subscribe to, Paramount Plus or Peacock or Hulu or Apple TV Plus or Amazon Music? I mean, hell, did you get suckered into buying one of those like subscriptions to a car wash where you pay like $20 every month and you get unlimited car washes? Have you ever done anything? I almost guarantee almost everybody listening to that has done something along those lines at one point in their life. Guess what? You're a sucker. So am I, by the way. I'm a sucker too. I also have been conned into this. But that is exactly what, if you're trying to get a subscription service, a digital service on the ground, that's how you should be thinking. If you want to generate sales in comics, that's how you should be thinking. Put it this way, and in regards to Spider-Man's marriage, why doesn't Marvel tease and go all in on that? They've got to protect the 65,000 copies they're selling every month? You realize if Marvel came out with something that said, we are going to once and for all address and restore Spider-Man's marriage, but we're not going to do this in one comic. We're going to do this over 3 years. Do you realize that over 3 years, Marvel would sell over 100,000 copies of that book? No doubt about it. Why wouldn't you do that? You're like, no. We've got to protect the lore. What the fuck are you talking about? There is so much money to be gained by obvious things, and you can work really hard to believe that that's not the case. But for God's sake, right now, if they came out with a comic that said, the end of Krakoa is here, Marvel's X-Men are going to return to the status quo, be hunted and feared, and have to go underground, comic sales on the X-Men line would double. Why wouldn't they do that? Because, Who knows? In many ways, comics needs to get a good dose of we only live once. So fuck it. Let's go as far as we can. Anyway, um, I thought I'd throw this out there as just a story I haven't told yet. It's a true story. Everything I said is true. That was something that was considered. So let me know your thoughts. Do you regret missing that storyline? What do you think? What do you think of all this? Let me know in the comments below. But there you go, a little bit of Perch history for you. Thanks for listening.